Fiance made a scene at my workplace, wrecked my car, ran into the road and got hit by a car, then detained for a DUI. So this just happened. My fiance, who I've been dating for a little over a year, drops me off at work, we share my car, and he has a doctor's appointment during my shift. I hug and kiss him goodbye, everything is good. He doesn't have a phone, so I have no way to contact him while I'm at work. This means no disagreements or anything took place between the time my happy boy dropped me off, and when he walked into my workplace maybe 4 hours later. He looked really happy to see me and I gave him a big hug. I smelled alcohol on him and he started showing signs of the belligerent drunk that he becomes. "I'm gonna go fuck some shit up," being a direct quote from this interaction. I tread carefully, said nothing about it and acted normally despite being upset. I told him he should go home and get my brother. Let me just preface, it's my location's grand opening, it's my first day there, my boss is there, his boss is there, that guy's boss is here, this guy's boss is here, oh and he's the president of whatever I don't remember. An hour or so later, W comes back with my brother. My section is full, so they sit and wait for a table to clear up. They're sat right behind 3 of the big wigs. W is now crying, so I come out and check on him. At some point, while I'm right next to him, behind the big boy bosses, he yells out, "Man, fuck these people." I try to calm him, tell him he can't do that, please calm down, go out and smoke, etc. I turn around and my seated customers and all the bosses are just staring at me. I tell him I'll have to kick him out if he does that again and that I really don't want to do that. I go up to where my bosses are huddled and apologized, told them I let him know I'd be kicking him out if it happens again, and went back to work. W and my brother go out to smoke. I apologized to my customers as well. They were incredibly kind and understanding. Once the table cleared up, they came back in and sat down. I got them some drinks and took the opportunity to run to the bathroom and play some catch-up on side work. I get back to the table, and aside from looking like he's still crying, he seems alright. He's just shooting the shit with my brother. They're joking saying W is gonna put on his bulletproof vest and my brother is gonna shoot him. I couldn't really tell they were joking though, at least they were very adamant about the joke, so I reminded my brother that W is drunk and they shouldn't be doing anything like that. My brother started asking what W had drank and here's where I made a mistake. I let my upset show. In response to my brother asking what W was drinking, I said a bottle of liquor he bought using my debit card without asking me. He gets up, slams his wallet on the table, and leaves. He's not gonna leave without my brother, we say, right, he's just going to sit in the car. Nope, off he goes. I'm worried sick, but there's nothing I can do. I take my brother's food order and get back to work. Maybe an hour later, the president guy specifically asks me to do something. I don't realize who this guy is at the time. I tell him I'll get right on that and continue finishing up what I was doing. A senior employee comes up to me and explains to me who he is and tells me that if he asks me to do something, I drop what I'm doing and do it, so I get right on that task. Moments later, I look up, and W is standing in front of me across the bar. He's just staring at me and crying. He pleads, "Please talk to me." I let him know that I'm busy and really can't speak right now. I tell him to go sit and hang out with my brother. The president is 5 feet to his left and 2 of the boss guys are right behind me. He sits in the waiting area by himself and begins to cry loud enough for the entire store to hear. I look up at the president who is staring at then behind me to the 2 who are doing the same. They tell me to stop what I'm doing and clock out. I take maybe 10 to 15 minutes to wrap up all the essential things I need to do before I can leave and meet my brother outside, who is staring at ambulance and police lights 100 feet up the road. He tells me W went home. While I'm standing there, I really start to pay attention to the emergency lights. I start to worry that something happened to W. I hear someone screaming and crying, but my brother convinces me it's not W and that he drove the other way. I eventually walk up to and past the emergency scene when I see my car about another 100 feet away in the grass. I run to the car to see W and it's empty. A cop walks up to me and eventually tells me W is in the ambulance, so I run back and he's pulling off. As soon as I get to him, the cops stop me, get my information and fill me in. He's okay after getting struck by the car, thankfully due to being drunk, they said. He is being taken to jail for a DUI. So they told me I cannot see him while he is in the hospital. My car didn't get too much damage, but for personal reasons, it's been towed and will likely cost me thousands to resolve. I'll do my best, but I think the car is gone for good. I'm less upset about the whole situation, and more upset by the lack of respect for me and my wishes/boundaries. I've talked to him about how he needs to stop drinking. This is a recent trend, that he cannot buy alcohol with my money without asking. This has happened on a few occasions, and that he is not to drive my car drunk, and this is just one example out of many disrespectful acts. Once I learned that he was okay, I just got angry. There is a pattern of disrespecting me, my wishes and my boundaries, which I feel sucks even more because I've been so outrageously understanding as well as clear and communicative about absolutely everything, at least, during the times that he stuck around to listen. I love him and care about him more than anyone or anything, but his actions consistently don't match up with his words. How do y'all suggest I approach the situation when I see him next? How would you recommend I proceed? Any advice is appreciated, thank you. Second story, I have been happily married to my wife for nearly 2 decades, and the only struggles we sometimes have involved differences of opinion about the education of our children, particularly about a certain subject. My wife is super smart, funny, beautiful, sweet, and more, but she has always been rather insecure about her weight. Perhaps she's even slightly obese, I'm not sure when the term applies. Because I want to spare our children the same insecurities, I make an effort to ensure they don't adopt the same eating habits. However, every time I say something like, "Enough candy for today, boys," my wife hears it as, "Don't turn into your mother." She hates the way her body looks, but lacks the willpower to change her habits, which also leads to occasional friction between us. I just don't understand how she can't find the discipline to change something she dislikes so much, especially when she could achieve the figure she wants within 6 months or so. That said, it's a very sensitive subject. I am fine with her weight. Yes, I'd prefer her to be healthier and leaner, but I tell her she's beautiful the way she is. However, I don't want our kids heading in the same direction, and this is a topic that's hard, if not impossible, to discuss. Recently, a new colleague at work has shown interest in me, and this situation has complicated things further. She started flirting with me right away, and even though I never reciprocated, she quickly began talking about love, saying how much she thinks about me and how she can't live without me. This caught me off guard. I told her I'm happily married and have no intention of hurting my wife. However, my wife learned about this through my WhatsApp history and confronted me. I explained that I admire my colleague for her talents and that we get along well on a personal level, but that I have no romantic feelings for her, as she appears to have for me. My wife wasn't convinced and feels my colleague is a perfect match for me. She said my colleague embodies everything I could ever want in a woman: confidence, a perfect figure, ambition, discipline, talent and a shared passion of ours, and more, qualities my wife admits she's a little jealous of. Admittedly, if I weren't married, I might have started to develop feelings for this colleague, but I can't because I already love someone else. Physical attraction, however, is another matter, and I've come to realize that it's not so easily dismissed. I do find my colleague physically attractive. She has even tried to seduce me sexually on several occasions. While she may be the bedroom fantasy of some of my colleagues who flirt with her, I've always maintained control and refused to do anything I'd regret for the rest of my life. I always change the subject or move away when she makes advances or touches me in a manner that is borderline inappropriate. Because of my wife's insecurities, which have only grown since my colleague's arrival, she's not convinced that I won't fall for her eventually. It's a tricky situation. I wish my colleague would drop this behavior. While I do feel flattered on some level, don't understand how she could offer herself in this way, emotionally and physically, to a married man, especially while she's married herself. She wouldn't just destroy my family but her own as well. Maybe her husband deserves it, but what about her kids? I'm convinced her feelings for me are genuine, not because I think I'm all that, but because it's clear in what she says, how she says it, and how she behaves. What I don't understand is how she can claim to want the best for me while creating cracks in my happy marriage and making me miserable in the process. Also, how can she compliment my wife when she is around her while trying to steal her husband away? I feel she is a bit hypocrite and should simply have remained silent, controlled her feelings, and kept things professional. My wife has nothing to worry about, but as long as my colleague is around, I fear we'll continue having moments of friction that sometimes lead to fights. What can I do about this? TLDR, My wife has self-confidence issues and is intimated by a colleague of mine who is the exact opposite and is offering herself to me in every way. She is convinced I won't be able to resist her charm, and we end up arguing/fighting about this more and more frequently. Comments: how can you continue to admire someone and get along with them on a personal level when they know you are married and are actively and unashamedly pursuing you romantically? It's time to own up to the fact that this isn't just your wife's insecurity. You aren't just a passenger in this situation receiving this woman's unwelcome attention like a helpless receptacle. You are part of the problem. You have failed to put enough of a boundary up with this person. If a colleague did this with me at work, I'd be so affronted by their behavior they would be reported to HR and they wouldn't be able to contact me on my personal number again, and we certainly wouldn't remain friends after they openly displayed that they don't give a shit that I have a wife because they have romantic feelings. It'd be so utterly disrespectful to both me as an individual and my marriage. You've stayed friends with this woman and still allow her access to you in an informal setting knowing what her intentions are. Your wife is right to feel uneasy about this.